right, my name is Stephen Breyer. I'm from San Francisco. I taught here. My first job after being a law clerk and working in the Department of Justice was right here at Harvard Law School, where I taught for several years, and I did a few other things. I worked in Washington for a little while, and then I was nominated to the Court of Appeals in Boston, which is New England plus Puerto Rico, in 1980, and then in 1994, President Clinton nominated me to the Supreme Court, where I served as a justice for 28 years. And more recently then, I retired, and I'm now back teaching. And I like teaching. I like the students. They're fun, they're interesting, and I write and I teach. That's the job now when I've retired. But I grew up in San Francisco. I grew up just during and after World War II. I was born in 1938. So it's not just that I did serve 42 years as a judge. But where do my basic values come from? I call myself and my contemporaries 20th century men and women. And in San Francisco, just after World War II, what did people get together and believe about government, for example? Well, the people in charge in France, it was de Gaulle, and in England, Attlee, and in Italy, de Gasperi, and in Germany, Adenauer, and here we had Truman and Acheson and Marshall, and yeah, we had they had, and we had as a result after World War II, certain basic beliefs. Together we would believe, all these countries, in democracy, basic human rights, increased equality, the rule of law, greater free trade, and doing things together. We would have allies and unity and try to spread this idea that we'd fought World War II to win across the world. And that lasted a long time. But when I was on the court, or when I was in law school, really, what did we learn? Well, who were the judges we then admired? Oliver Wendell Holmes, Brandeis, Cardozo, learned hand. And how did they decide cases? Well, my own view of it is, and that was the view of the school, first of all, you read the text. If it's an opinion, you're writing about what does the word costs mean in this section of the statute book. And you'd read the words. Yeah, read them. And if they were clear, that's what Bordelis, who was a great French scholar, used to say, if the text is clear, follow the text, of course. But he added, the text is never clear. And of course it isn't clear, because we'll take cases in the Supreme Court, maybe 70, maybe 80, maybe 60 during a year, out of probably several thousand that would like us to take their case of federal law, but probably will take the case only if lower court judges have come to different conclusions on the same question of federal law. Almost always they reach the same conclusions. Well, if they reach the same conclusions, there's no need for us. After all, they're good judges too. And so we wouldn't take it. But in those unusual cases where they reach different conclusions, we'll probably hear the case. And of course it isn't clear. Why did they reach different conclusions? So then we look to other things. Going back into history, judges have always, or almost always, looked at what? The text. You read the text. But also the purpose. What mischief, an English 18th century judge said, and here they said the same. What mischief did Congress intend to cure? What mischief was it trying to help avoid? And we try to figure that out. And after all, we want a conclusion on the interpretation that will help what Congress wanted. And more than that, I mean, what are the consequences of deciding this way or deciding that way? Is that going to muck up the whole country? Is it going to do the opposite of what Congress wanted? Is it going to make the mischief some more severe, or is it going to help? So we'll look at consequences. We'll look at purposes. We'll look at the history. We'll look at the tradition. We'll look at the values that are in this document here, the Constitution of the United States. And depending on the case, we'll take one, the other, all of them, and we'll try to decide. And that's called the judicial instinct. That's how Holmes saw it. And you try to do your best to get what? What's a good thing for a judge to be? You want to call a judge very intelligent, a wise, intelligent? No. That's a compliment for a law professor. That is not a compliment for a judge. You want to compliment the judge? His decisions or her decisions are sound. That's what it is. They help people. They help people live together, 340 million in this country. That's what we try to do. And where that works, maybe 20 or 30 years from now, people will have an idea of whether the judge wrote a sound decision that was helpful or not. And then you can provide a compliment. And we don't know, but we do know the basic overall purpose of law. If you say, what is an institution is it trying to achieve? It's trying, said Henry Hart and Albert Sachs and the others when I was in law school, trying to enable the 340 million people who are in this country, every race, every religion, every point of view imaginable. My mother used to say that. She said, there's no point of view so crazy there isn't somebody here who doesn't hold it. Live together securely, in peace, and productively. We don't always succeed at that, of course not. But so far, we did have a civil war, we did have slavery, we did have all kinds of things, but we're still together. Abraham Lincoln said that. My wife said to our grandchildren, we have 7 grandchildren, she said to her grandchildren, I will give you $20 each if you memorize Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Why? Why? Listen to it, the first 2 lines I know. 87 years ago, our fathers set forth upon this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. We are now engaged in a great war to see whether this nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. That's the question. This is an experiment. And what I tell the high school students or the college students or the 7th graders who I talk to, see this document? Don't ask me what you should do. You're the ones who have to decide. It's your document now. I've retired. I won't be here all that long, but you will be. And so you better get out there and participate in the government of the United States. And you better participate, and you ought to know what this says. And you ought to know a little bit about history. And you ought to talk to people who disagree with you and see what they think. And don't talk too much and listen. Senator Kennedy told us that, his staff. He said, you listen. And if you listen long enough, you will discover that they actually say something that you really agree with. And at that moment you say, oh, what a good idea you have. What a good idea. Let's see if we can work with that. And we do. And we do. And sometimes we get somewhere. And he would say, if you get 30% of what you want, take it. Don't hold out for 100%, which you'll never get. Even if your followers all say you're wonderful to do that, don't. Try to achieve something. Try to help other people. Try to participate. Okay, now I wrote this book because I thought that the court, with new appointments, they honestly believe what they're doing is right under the law, but that they're moving too far away from looking to what is the purpose of this bill? What are the consequences? What are the values that will move our decision more towards those in this document, maybe more away from it? Let's look at those things, history, tradition, values, consequences, purposes, as well as the text. Let's look at that. And I thought they're moving too far away from that. They want to just look at the text. Just look at the text. I used to debate this with Nino Scalia. He was a great judge and a good friend and my colleague. And he would say, no, just look at the text. Don't look at purposes. I'd say, really? You just want me to look at the text? Oh, here's the text. It says costs. It says a woman who sues the school board because she thinks that her handicapped child is not getting an appropriate education. And she wins. It says she gets her costs. Costs. Okay. Does that include the $29,000 you just spent on an educational expert? Or is it just legal costs? Just the lawyers? Or maybe just the filing fees? Which is it? Nino, you want me to read that word. Okay, I'll read it. It says costs. Oh, you mean really concentrated on it? Okay. Costs. Okay. Really costs. I mean, how long do you want me to do this? I mean, really? Is that going to tell us the answer? And I say, no, it won't. And I have many, many examples of this book of why I think it won't and why I think it will lead us away from, they think, those who follow it, and they have a lot of good reasoning and so forth, and I use many examples to show it, they think that if we don't use their system, well, the judges will substitute what they think is good for what the law says. So I say, you can do that under any system. If you want to be a bad judge, you can be a bad judge. The system that Holmes and Brandeis used is no worse than any others, including the textualism, including the originalism, etc. It's no worse than any of the others in allowing a judge to depart from the law and substitute what he or she thinks is good. That's not a good way to be a judge. But which system you use is not more or less likely to occur there. Well, all that's in this book if you want to read it, and more. I try to put in a lot of examples. But you see why I think those judges who are in the Supreme Court, as well as in other courts, they're not deciding a case because they like the politics of somebody else in political life. No, they're deciding a case because they think that that's what the law requires. Now, maybe the people who convince the president to appoint them, they might think that we're going to get political results we like. We'll let them think what they want. The judge doesn't think that. The judge is thinking he's following the law. I've seen that over 42 years, all right? And so there we are. And that's why I've written this book, and that's why I like talking to the high school students, and I like talking to the 7th graders. And when I talk to them, I see that they're not looking out the window anymore. And I see that they're actually interested in how can I help keep this country together? What can I do? Participate, and how, and listen to others and so forth. And I can help our 340 million people continue to live together and have a life that is, in fact, more secure, more peaceful, more productive. Then I say, good, you understand what I think the law of the United States and the rule of law is about.